Hey, welcome to my channel. Today I'm not playing any game. I just wanted to talk about something I've been seeing a lot on the internet over the last few years. And that is criticizing sequels and calling them DLCs. So let's get right into this. First off, I think it's overall a misunderstanding on what a sequel is supposed to be. I mean, a sequel isn't supposed to be completely different, otherwise it wouldn't be a sequel. If you have an RPG, for example, the Elder Scrolls is a good example, I think. All of the games are pretty similar, but each of them has its own unique aspect, and they're all worth playing, but every one of them is very similar in a way. The gameplay, of course, Morrowind and Skyrim are very different, but at the core of it there are still a lot of similarities. Of course, there are other series, for example like The Witcher. All of the games are fantasy action games, I guess, and adventure, but the way you play them is very different. I made a video on Witcher 1, and that the combat is completely different. The way you play the game is completely different. You don't have a jump button, for example. You pause the game when you press spacebar, and it's nothing like The Witcher 3. But still, you have an inventory, you have your skills, you have your magic and your sword, and you fight with it. So in that sense it's still similar. You still play as Geralt, it's still a story. So when Witcher 2 came out, it was also very different, and I'm planning on making a video on that, which should come out soon. But my memory is a little hazy on the game. I played it in 2017 last time. But yeah, it was very different and more traditional, I guess you could say. More of a console game. I think the game was meant to be played with a controller. And then of course Witcher 3, which basically has the new standard RPG gameplay, I guess you could say. I mean, I still think Batman Arkham City influenced most of these games coming out today. If you, for example, look at Ghost of Tsushima or Shadow of War, that's already an older game, but both of those games have very similar gameplay, and you use a lot of the same button combinations for combos and stuff, and you have detective vision in all of those games, and those games all have a big emphasis on stealth, so you have a lot of options when it comes to sneaking around, poisoning the enemies, setting traps or stuff like that. So I know what people mean when they say it's just DLC and it's too similar. That's also a problem, because a lot of these games are very unoriginal and very comfortable in just doing the same shit over and over again. I mean, look at Sony. All of the things they release are very similar in gameplay, while not the same. All of them are heavily inspired by Assassin's Creed, I feel like. Maybe not God of War, but every one of them has like the Sony flair to it with the story and the way they produce their games. There's a certain quality to it where you can tell, okay, this is a Sony game. While of course it could be a good thing, so it's like a trademark or something, and people can recognize it, of course. I just feel like too many of those Sony games play the same and sometimes when I play a Sony game, it's like I quite easily get bored of the game, because I feel like I've done those things before. Not all of them. I just played Ghost of Tsushima and I absolutely loved the game. It was super good, even though it was very similar to other games like Horizon Zero Dawn. But I couldn't get into that game because it was too similar. So anyway, I'm getting way off track. Let's get on to my second point before the video gets too long. And that is, every game sucks in the eyes of the internet when it comes out. If you've been looking at what releases in the last few years. Every single game gets shit on at release, or after a while, every game gets flagged. I mean, criticism is normal, but it's always just some unreasonable stuff. Most of the time when the Game Awards come up, there's a lot of discussion, if you can call it that, on the internet. Basically people throwing shit at each other, calling each of their favorite games shit, and just being unreasonable basically. Last year was a good example. We had so many good games. I feel like Tears of the Kingdom was the game of the year, but I also loved Baldur's Gate 3, so I understood why it won. I just felt like the discussion from a lot of people was just stupid. They didn't know what they were talking about. They were calling Tears of the Kingdom a DLC, while calling Baldur's Gate 3 revolutionary and innovative. And I mean, it is, but if you look at Divinity 2 and Baldur's Gate 3, they are very similar. But if you play Divinity 2, Baldur's Gate 3 isn't gonna be as revolutionary. Of course, the cutscenes and the characters and the story, everything like that is awesome and better than in Divinity 2 in my opinion. But the game itself is not like, wow, this has not ever been done before. Well, I felt like with Tears of the Kingdom, which was called DLC, and a lot of people hated it because it was too similar to Breath of the Wild. I felt like that game, the developers didn't have any limitations on them. They just did whatever the hell they thought would make a fun game, and you basically have a sandbox game. The last game I felt that feeling while playing was Gary's mod in sandbox. You know, just throwing shit together, creating some abomination, seeing what works, creating like a big ass robot to kill bokoblins with. Stuff like that blew my mind when I played it, and it's still like, if I play it now, there's no end to the game basically. You have so many options in building and making your own way to the game and playing the game. You can just choose what to do and what not to do, and the game gives you every opportunity to do whatever you want. I feel like that was really one of a kind and really innovative. So that's why Tears of the Kingdom would have been my game of the year. But anyway, on to my third point. People being spoiled by amazing DLC. I'm gonna use Blood and Wine and Heart of Stone from Witcher 3 as an example, because I think those are the best DLCs that were ever released, and they like set the standard way too high for anyone else to ever reach it, because both of those DLCs were basically sequels to Witcher 3 in length, and the stories, everything about those DLCs were like their own games. And while that is completely awesome, and I wish every DLC was like that, that's just not possible, and that means if a DLC doesn't reach that standard, it gets shit on. But most of the time DLCs are just like skins or something useless that nobody wants anyway. But if a game isn't in their eyes as good as the best DLC they ever played, oh, you'll see, this game isn't a sequel, this game isn't worth it. That's because their values are fucked up and they're basically spoiled by all of the good things they have played. They just shit on something they deem not worthy. So yeah, that brings me to my final point, which is overall criticism on the internet and how to deal with it. And that is basically, just remember, it's just another person on the internet behind the screen. Even if they're a professional reviewer or whatever, at the end of the day they're still just a person with their own biases and opinions, and don't have an opinion on something until you have experienced it basically. I mean, of course you can check if a game is shit or something and For example, in the case of Gollum, you don't have to play it for yourself to know, okay, maybe that is a game that I shouldn't play. But I mean, if a game looks interesting to you, don't let anyone on the internet deter you from trying it and checking it out. You know, it's always the only way to really do things is just to try it, you know. Don't just trust anyone on the internet. They don't know what your tastes are. That's something only you know. Because I have a couple of friends who are like, they'll watch like one YouTube review and make their mind up about a game, but they've never tried before. They just had like one YouTuber they love say like, oh yeah, this game is trash, I hate that game, and that's it basically. We'll never play that game with them ever. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a video game. Just try it. If you don't have the money, don't buy it. Maybe if you have money for a VPN, then just, you know, I mean, I can't openly say that on YouTube, but you know what I mean. Yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of this. Basically, I just wanted to make a video about it because of Tears of the Kingdom, because I love that game and I see a lot of hate for it. Of course, there are a lot of more people that love it, but there's just this argument that this game is just DLC. It kind of pisses me off, you know. There's a lot of arguments on the internet that are just so weak that, you know, you have to say something against it, because everybody just ignores it basically when somebody says it like that. They agree with it, or they just don't say anything. But it's such a stupid opinion to have. It's just like a argument, or if you don't like it, don't watch it, or if you don't like it, don't talk about it. That's also something you always see on the internet, and a lot of people agree with that, which is insane. Because what? If I don't like something, I can't talk about it? What the hell? What kind of dumbass shit is that? You know, that's basically my main point is people on the internet are stupid and don't take them too serious. That includes me. You know, this is also just my opinion. So yeah, let me know what you think about this in the comments and leave a like.